Imagine for a second that you, the wonderful viewer behind that screen, run a multi-billion-dollar sportswear and equipment conglomerate, producing product for virtually every sport imaginable with a particular deep sales history rooted in the fine game of tennis. Your company already manufactures some of the best-selling and highest-rated tennis footwear, and your logo can be seen plastered across the apparel of the sport's biggest stars on the sport's biggest stages. Your next bold move to complete the tennis trifecta and profit off your business's untapped market? Using your company's vast resources to create a next-generation high-tech tennis racket that is sure to become the hottest item on the market within no time. A no-brainer, right? Well, that was Adidas' thought process, as surely their brand history and reputation should have at least been able to solidify their place in an overcrowding product space. So in 2009, Adidas released their very own line of tennis rackets targeted from professionals to beginners and everyone in between. A debut that would go down as one of the most embarrassing and poorly thought out tennis product launches to date, with any mention of the rackets being erased from the internet just 1 year later. How did they screw up so badly? Well, the story goes back further than you think. Adidas' storied history in manufacturing tennis equipment dates back to 1931, though flash forward a few years and they'd have a marketing success on their hands with the Stan Smith tennis shoe, the first of its kind to be made with leather. Following the sponsored releases of the Rod Laver and Ilie Nastase variants, Adidas was carving its way toward becoming a mainstream name within the tennis scene. Raising that profile even further into the 1980s, Adidas signed and created exclusive clothing and footwear lines for the then number 1 and 2 male players in the world, Ivan Lendl and Stefan Edberg, along with the undisputed number 1 player, Steffi Graf, emblazoning their trefoil logo and omnipresent 3-stripe designs into the minds of millions. For the purposes of this video, however, we'll shift our focus towards another tennis product that Adidas was well known for at the time: rackets. Beginning production on wooden models throughout the 1970s, a home run deal was struck when Ivan Lendl endorsed the GTX line of graphite tennis rackets throughout the 1980s, most famously used during Lendl's 5-set comeback victory at the 1984 Roland Garros final. Though the stage appeared to be set for the 3 stripes to push Adidas' profile in the tennis racket landscape even higher as the 21st century loomed, Lendl's switch to Mizuno equipment in 1990 caused significant market share declines in Adidas rackets. And by 1992, Adidas shut the door on racket manufacturing altogether, ultimately stating that it was no longer a good business to be in. Well, if that were the case, no one told the other guys. Though the market did indeed slump into the mid-1990s, fresh concepts and innovation brought in by new and old industry players alike, combined with a rapidly growing player base worldwide, set into motion a surge of demand for tennis equipment into the mid-2000s, and producers reaped the benefits. Even Adidas, who remained deeply involved in the sports apparel category, saw sporting goods and overall net sales blossom during this period, thanks in part to valuable sponsorship deals with top players Marat Safin, Novak Djokovic, Justin Ennen, Ana Ivanovic, and many more. Sensing a second opportunity to monopolize the tennis equipment scene, Adidas went all in once again in 2008 with a surprise announcement: the brand new line of Adidas tennis rackets. With 3 different models and 6 total racket variants, Adidas decided to forego originality and instead name each racket model after the 3 popular tennis shoe lines, thus creating the Adidas Response, Adidas Feather, and most importantly, the Adidas Barricade Racket, the company's flagship model designed to compete with the top dogs of the overcrowding racket space. Said Simon Cartwright, vice president of Adidas Global Tennis upon announcement, "Building on our footwear and apparel success, Adidas Tennis feels the market is right for the return to racket production. We can now provide tennis players with everything they need to take part in one of the most popular sports in the world. Customers can be assured that our new rackets will match the high levels of product quality so long associated with the Adidas brand." Despite the mixed reaction of a legacy apparel brand trying to force their way back into a saturated market, Adidas wasn't unique in its attempt to manufacture premium sporting goods. Main competitor Nike entered the golf equipment scene just years prior with its own line of golf balls and clubs, an overall success thanks in part to key endorsements from the game's biggest players. Attempting to forge their own crossover success, the Adidas tennis rackets were released in 2009 to a mixed response. Considering the lofty expectations that came with printing the 3 stripes across the racket, critics noted that though the premier model, Adidas Barricade, generated ample power and allowed for impressive maneuverability, the racket was overall found to be incredibly stiff and difficult to control for your average player, as its sweet spot was found to be considerably smaller than competing models. Customer reviews were even more polarizing, with many proclaiming the Barricade to be their new racket of choice and a return to form for Adidas, yet even more decrying the lack of value found in the lackluster racket's initial $185 price tag. Despite lukewarm first impressions, the general consensus still held that a company the size of Adidas had the financial and technical capabilities to take the tennis world by storm. With racket models created for professionals and beginners alike, there was no shortage of potential new customers that Adidas could attract into their expanding tennis ecosystem. I mean, hey, if a small company like Babolat could go from making tennis strings to commanding a worldwide stronghold on the tennis racket industry within a 10-year span, imagine what a billion-dollar corporation could achieve. How could they not succeed, right? Flash forward just 1 year later, and anyone who followed the racket from launch might have had trouble convincing anyone else that a new Adidas tennis racket even existed. Not joking, major distributors had no product, online retailers seemingly erased any mention of the rackets from their websites, and worst of all, no one seemed to own one. Though common for many retail debuts to wane in popularity over time and eventually become discontinued by the manufacturer, by all outside accounts, the Adidas racket suffered a failure to launch, a bizarre and embarrassing scenario considering the company behind it. As there was no announcement of the product's discontinuation, our only timeline into the racket's demise can be surmised by a look into old Tennis Warehouse catalogs, where a front page promotion in the holiday 2009 issue devolved into a back page mention by summer 2010. By fall 2010, like it never happened. So what caused the Adidas rackets to go from heavily hyped to defunct in just 1 year? And what ultimately was the reason behind their sudden disappearance? Before we get into the craziness, a quick look at Skillshare, the online learning community sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is a platform designed for lifelong creatives who enjoy video lessons exploring new skills and hobbies, offering thousands of inspiring classes on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and many, many more. As someone who used their passion of tennis to create a YouTube channel based around just that, the Creating Your Dream Career class taught by Holly Coley Murchison, which offers great tips on using past experience to explore new creative careers, perfectly exemplifies that wealth of knowledge Skillshare offers to those willing to dive in. And why not? At less than $10 a month for unlimited knowledge without any ads, it's a pretty sweet deal. Even better, the first 1,000 of my subscribers to also click the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership so you can explore your creativity. When Roger Federer left Nike for Uniqlo in 2018 for a reported $300 million endorsement contract, what shocked many fans wasn't the fact that Roger could essentially command any amount he wanted to for a brand to put their shirt on his back. It was the weird sensation of seeing the Swiss maestro wear anything but Nike. But why is that a big deal? Well, Federer was Nike for tennis. We fans subconsciously associate our favorite athletes with their brand endorsements far more than we give ourselves credit for, and our wallets do the talking when we need to purchase related apparel and equipment. Just as we associate Babolat rackets with Nadal, and head rackets with Djokovic, we've learned to associate Adidas rackets with, well, no one. In its tenure on the market, Adidas did not sign one professional player to use their rackets, despite having an inside connection with numerous top players wearing their apparel. Worse, I cannot even find an image on Google of anyone playing with a modern Adidas racket, even if just for an advertisement, showcasing the ineptitude found within Adidas marketing to even let people know this thing existed. In the one grainy marketing promotion found beneath the depths of YouTube, Adidas ambassador and ATP pro Mats Merkel can be seen gushing about the new release.
For my serve, it's great, I have a lot of power.
Yet can be seen on video captured not long after rocking a head Prestige instead. It's not as though Adidas did not have the financial or network resources to put their sticks in the hands of professionals or even top juniors. They simply chose not to for whatever reason. Even legacy endorser Yvonne Lendl stated in an interview, "They're back in the racket business? I didn't know that. It's a shock to be honest. I still have a contract with them and still wear their stuff, but I had no idea they were making rackets again." If a brand like Pro Kennex can put their racket into the hands of a longtime top 100 player, Adidas certainly had no excuse. A deeper theory behind the reluctance to market their own racket and the reason as to why the stick suffered performance issues was also most likely due to the fact that the Adidas racket wasn't really an Adidas racket. See, hidden away under their initial marketing jargon when announcing the racket was a subtext that stated, "All the rackets are manufactured by Keentech." Keentech, you may ask, who? As it turns out, Keentech is a subsidiary of parent company Topkey, a Chinese composite company who manufactures more than 30% of all tennis rackets on the market today. Though racket companies will traditionally design product in-house with the help of these types of manufacturers, it appears that in our case, Adidas simply licensed their name and branding out to a third party, and that no R&D was performed in-house. A decision which explains why Adidas could have been so willing to give up on an entire line of new equipment as soon as things took a turn for the worse. After all, it wasn't really theirs in the first place. In the end, the final blow to Adidas might have simply been the multitude of factors both within and outside their control that doomed the project from the beginning. Though conceived on paper during a booming economic period, the products were eventually launched in the midst of the late 2000s financial crisis at a time when the entire industry was slumping. Worse yet, key endorsers Bryan Brothers, Sam Querrey, Marcos Baghdatis, and Novak Djokovic all left Adidas for different brands the same year the rackets were released, throwing doubt to the brand's commitment of the tennis sales landscape and leaving many potential racket endorsers off the table. The only actual statement we have of discontinuation comes from a YouTube comment left by a Tennis Warehouse rep in 2012, who simply stated, "As of right now, Adidas is not making rackets, and I think they stopped producing this one because of low sales. Sometimes companies just move away from making a racket." Bizarrely, pictures depicting unreleased Adidas Barricade 2, Adi Pure Quirt, and Adi Zero Feather racket models appear on European distributor websites, with some photos floating around of privately owned models. Most bizarrely, the only licensed picture on the internet of an Adidas fashion model using an Adidas racket was created in summer 2015, with the model sporting the unreleased Adi Pure Quirt racket. Ultimately, the Adidas rackets weren't terrible performers, but simply lackluster offerings with confusing names put out at the worst time possible by a company who never appeared interested in marketing a product they didn't even create. My only hope one day is to uncover the landfill Adidas buried their entire unsold stock of rackets in, and give them to a player who will properly endorse them with the love they deserve. I think I know a guy.